We good? Everyone good? Awesome. Okay. Well, everyone's happy? Okay. Time. Imagine we could drink any coffee right now and immediately identify its origin, the varietal, the farm temperature, how it was processed and roasted. We can, and I'm going to show you how. The pages in front of you are the guide to today's presentation, so please follow through on them as I talk and we taste. And there's a copy there for the head judge to take back to the room at the end. My inspiration comes from the sommelier profession and the deductive tasting system that they have developed that lets them determine the provenance and quality of a wine as they taste it. This system identifies primary flavours from varietal and terroir, secondary flavours created during the winemaking process, and tertiary flavours created during aging. From this information, a sommelier can immediately identify that wine because these flavours have been connected to their source. Using this information, I've created my own system for coffee, including the coffee tasting matrix that we'll be using today. It starts to identify where coffee flavours come from, so we could identify coffee by taste alone. This system would allow us to evaluate a coffee as a finished product. It would allow us to communicate flavours clearly to anyone, and it would also allow the barista to engage the coffee consumer like a sommelier does with wine. Today, I'll be serving you two naturally processed Gesha coffees. Both of these coffees are from cool growing regions, and I'll be using them to demonstrate my ideas today. So let's start with where coffee flavours come from. I propose in coffee that primary flavours come from varietal and terroir. All varietals have their own unique flavour fingerprint, but temperature has a huge influence over the flavour profile. Temperature affects the respiration cycle of the plant. Citric and malic acid develops during that respiration cycle. The lower the temperature, the longer the cycle, more acid is produced, and differing concentrations of those acids influences the flavours we perceive. For example, these Gesha coffees, grown in cool climates, exhibit primary flavours of yellow fruits. And you can see that represented there on your primary flavour slider on those pages. Next, secondary flavours come from processing and post-harvest influence. Lactic and acetic acid develops during processing. These are powerful flavours that can either change or add another layer to those primary flavour building blocks. When I told you I was serving naturally processed coffees, you may have automatically assumed that those flavours would be big, boozy red fruits. However, that's the result of natural processing in hot temperatures. As these coffees were processed in cooler climates, this has resulted in secondary flavours of orange fruits. You can see that represented on your secondary flavour slider. Lastly, tertiary flavours are generated at the roaster with the addition of Maillard reaction and sugar caramelisation flavours. I've roasted both of these coffees to 202.5 degrees centigrade in 11.5 minutes, focusing on tertiary flavours that both complement and support those primary and secondary flavours. This roast profile has resulted in tertiary flavours of honey, which you can see represented on your tertiary flavour slider. When we can identify these three flavour characteristics in the cup, we can immediately understand and identify the provenance of that coffee. So let me tell you a little bit more information about these coffees so we can start to connect their flavour to their source. My espresso coffee comes from La Palma Il Tucan, located in Cundinamarca, Colombia. My milk coffee comes from Gesha village, which is located in Benchmargi, Ethiopia. The primary flavours of both of these coffees is very similar because they're the same varietal and both of the farms have average temperatures around 17 degrees centigrade. The secondary flavours differ slightly because the Gesha village was dried for 30 days on raised beds in full sun, whereas La Palma was dried for 27 days in total with a combination of raised beds under parabolic tents and mechanical dryers because of mist during the day. I've intentionally kept the tertiary flavours, I'm just going to turn these pages, I've intentionally kept the tertiary flavours the same by roasting to the same profile. Today, I'm going to ask you to change your tasting protocols for the espresso. What I'll get you to do is please stir 3 times and then smell the aroma. Next, I'll ask you to take 2 mouthfuls and hold each mouthful on your palate for 10 seconds. In that first mouthful, please look for my flavour calls, and in the second mouthful, please look for the structure, which is the balance and tactile section of your score sheet. These flavour calls are written on the taste matrix in front of you. They're for your reference, and I'll ask you to please read them from top to bottom as I lead you through the tasting. For now, I'll give you a few moments to yourself while I finish making these espressos. Okay, here we go. So, please stir 3 times and you will find aromas of citrus, tropical fruits and pineapple. Now take a mouthful after you've assessed that aroma, hold it on your palate for 10 seconds. You'll find flavours of primary flavours of lime, pineapple and passion fruit, secondary flavours of apricot nectar, tertiary flavours of honey. Now take your next mouthful when you're ready and hold that on your palate for another 10 seconds. Let's look at the structure. It is medium plus sweet, it is medium plus acid, it is medium minus bitter, it is medium body, it is a juicy and velvety texture, and the length is long. The intensity and complexity of those flavours and aromas is both high. I'll leave you now a little bit more time to continue with your evaluation, and we'll be back shortly with your milk beverages. Okay, let's move on. For your milk course, I'm going to ask you to take your first mouthful using a straw. What I'll get you to do is please evaluate your visual score and then take the straw, I'm just going to turn your pages again, take the straw I've just revealed, place it through the white of the pattern and to the bottom of the cup. Take your first mouthful where you're looking for secondary flavours of apricot and mango. Next, put that straw back in the cup. Take another mouthful from the lip as you normally would, where we're going to look for additional tertiary flavours of 70% dark chocolate. Please combine both of those 2 taste experiences when you come to evaluate your taste balance and your flavour score. Thank you. The straw evolved from wanting to isolate and pinpoint all of the flavours of this coffee while needing to serve you a milk beverage. The pH of milk buffers those citric and malic acids of the primary flavours, making them in particular difficult to taste. Also, the tertiary flavours bind with the oils and the solids that form the crema layer. Thank you. And these dominate your taste experience when you drink through the crema from the lip. The straw allows you to get the full flavour experience in only 2 mouthfuls. Now these coffees have ever so slightly different secondary flavours, and that is because the dark burgundy skins of the Gesher Village cherries absorbed more radiant energy from the sun as they dried in the sun, causing the internal cherry temperatures to be hotter, compared to La Palma, which had that sun diffused through the mist and the opaque plastic of the parabolic tents. Different temperatures during processing, as we said, changes the concentration of those acids, and for natural processing, hotter temperatures shifts those flavours towards the right. Thank you. I'll be back shortly to finish your signature drink. Okay, I'm going to move along now into the signature drink. In the first 2 courses, I've introduced you to the taste matrix to log and connect flavour to source. I've also started to connect those flavours, identifying specific primary, secondary and tertiary flavours. And now it's time to put it all together to begin to juice coffee by taste. Thank you. To begin to juice a coffee by taste. I've created a wine-like signature beverage to help demonstrate the logic behind deducing by taste. Deductive tasting is the logic of connecting what you taste to its accepted source of origin. I'll give you this one. Together we're going to do a tasting together using the matrix to first identify the wine style I've simulated, and then after identify the coffee I have used. Please now follow me through a tasting. We're going to swirl a glass and smell the aromas of grapefruit, pineapple and vanilla. Now take your first mouthful, hold it on your palate for 10 seconds. You're going to find primary flavours of grapefruit, lime, pineapple, passion fruit, limestone-like minerality and secondary flavours of vanilla. Take another mouthful. We're going to look at the structure. It is medium plus sweet, medium plus acid. It is medium minus bitter. It is a medium weight. There is a juicy texture with a minerality that contributes to a length that is long. The intensity and complexity of both of those flavours is high. Now, if this was a wine, here is the logic a sommelier would use to deduce what it is. The primary flavours of citrus and tropical suggest cool climate and white wine. The secondary flavours of vanilla indicate oak, so most likely a Chardonnay. There are no tertiary wine-like flavours, therefore it is a youthful wine 1 to 3 years of age. It is fruit-forward, so it is a New World style, and that minerality reminds me of Chardonnay from Southern Australia. So I would deduce that this is from Victoria, from the Yarra Valley, and that it is a 2016 Chardonnay from a high-quality producer. When we can connect all of these flavours to source for our industry, I think we can do exactly the same thing with coffee. So I'll get you to put those glasses now down on your spot. You may have already identified that coffee because we tasted primary flavours in there that included lime, pineapple and passion fruit, and you'll recall that these were from your espresso course, and so you're right in identifying I used the Colombian coffee. I chilled 6 shots. I also added some extra ingredients to transform that espresso into the simulated wine style. They're in the trays in front of you and they are as follows. 50 mils of non-alcoholic white grape juice for the juiciness, 4 grams of charred French oak, which added the vanilla, 0.1 gram of zinc oxide and 20 mils of water, which created the minerality, and 3 grams of dried elderberries, which added to the texture and the sweetness. I charged all of those extra ingredients with nitrogen to quickly infuse the aromatics and flavours into the grape juice, and combined with the espresso served at 14 degrees because it best suits this style of wine and drink and makes those flavours really pop, I think. So, in conclusion, I know that we can all taste coffee. I know that we can identify coffee flavours, but we don't yet have that connection of flavour to source to complete this system. And I hope together we can all work to connect those flavours so in the future we could identify any cup of coffee by taste alone. Now I know this was probably a fairly intense cupping, tasting at the end of the session, so please take one more sip of your signature drink to finish your evaluation, and I'll call time.